1, a 2, a 1.
It's time for the Better Horses Radio Show. So let's saddle up and ride as we explore the Western way of life, horses and cows, family and friends, a relationship with the land, and a relationship with God. It's all here on Better Horses Radio. Now, let's hit the trails with the Better Horses team.
Welcome to Better Horses Radio. I'm your host, Ed Adams.
I'm Merle Arbo.
And I'm Susie Arbo.
And we are glad to have the full team on board to bring you probably one of the best equine episodes coming our way. I'm excited about this. And Merle, we're getting into this fall. So we have to announce that we have the 2024 Color Breed Congress coming up in Tulsa, Oklahoma, November 1st through the 9th. So there's a lot of events coming up this fall.
Yeah, and you still have time to get the early entries in for your deadline. I think the deadline's October 1st, maybe, I read. So there is still time to get your entries in.
And you know what? We're doing a lot of riding and we're doing a lot of different disciplines. And Susie, I got to tell you something. I've been to the Flint Hills and I have got the honor to compete with some of the best cowboys out in the Midwest.
Yes, I think that's definitely a bucket list type of event that it needs to go on there, doesn't it?
And we're going to talk about it because I'm bringing on board the professional horse trainer, Matt Jobe, as he takes us out to the Flint Hills and a competition called the Top Hand Competition in the Flint Hills. And he also owns and operates the C-Bar J Ranch in Windsor, Missouri. We're going to hear all about that. And Merle, I think this is going to be something you're going to be really impressed with.
Yeah. It's always fun to talk to Matt. Our second segment is going to be Elizabeth James. And Dr. James is a passionate leader in the equine industry, wearing many hats as a wife, a mother, a horse farm owner, an equine competitor. She's also the business manager of Double Dan Horsemanship, the co-founder of the International Liberty Horse Association, and now the visionary founder and CEO of Equine Career Coach. So you want to stay tuned for that interview. We're really going to have fun and learn all about Liberty.
And it's going to be coming out October 10th through the 13th in Lexington, Kentucky.
We are so excited that our fourth segment today is with Dr. Traha, and he is from Wilhite and Fries, and he's into his interests include lameness evaluation, and he is into new technology, anything that can help our equine friends that we have. So you're not going to want to miss that.
And so that's all coming on Better Horses Radio. I want you to stay with us. But before we get started, let's throw it over to our Better Cattle Market segment with old Mark Opel. Mark?
Well, thanks, Ed. Lots going on here in the market, and you have a lot on the plate today on the program as well. And we'll get started here with some comments, but I want to start this edition of Better Cattle on a totally personal note. I'm wearing a T-shirt today that says, "All men are created equal, but the best are born in September." You might have guessed. My birthday was on Tuesday, and being able to share Better Cattle with listeners, viewers each week really is a great, great gift. Well, let's get down to business. I'm going to give a kind of a crop update here before we get to the live cattle and the feeder cattle trade. Harvest progress around the country, pretty much expected in the weekly update. Even with some rain delays, we're ahead of the 5-year average in most all areas. Now, I want to point out that reports from Indiana and Ohio continue to show corn yields not as good as expected in some areas of that eastern belt, due, they say, to some foliar diseases late in the season and a dry finish to the growing season. In fact, numerous Indiana counties continue under a no-burn law as we speak here today. Likely going to be that preliminary final estimate from USDA in January before we know the extent of these yield declines that we're hearing about right now. Elsewhere, effects of the Federal Reserve rate cut last week, we think, well, it'll take a while for that to reach the retail meat counter. But the lighter cattle supplies that we saw in the on-feed report, those supplies late this year and on into 2025, is going to support futures from here. And speaking of futures, we saw December live cattle well over the 182 level here. Looking at December as we move away from the October futures for live cattle and feeder cattle. December live cattle, 182. The resistance, we think, will be up at the 185, heavy resistance up around the 185 area. Quite a gap in there. and we may be trading back and forth for a time in here. Now, as far as November feeder cattle, they were over the 240, in fact, almost 242 here late last week. And we see resistance on that November contract up there at 245, 245 and a half as we move through this week. The momentum studies for live cattle rising from here, which could accelerate a move higher for now. But again, there'll be some back and forth, we think, before we do have a kind of a breakout to that higher level that we saw here early in the summer. Feeder cattle moving well past a 9-day moving average and a 18-day moving average here late week. Studies showing positive momentum there now, but maybe in a little bit of overbought territory. We do still see a lot of active bidding here at these auctions for feeders going into the feedlot. Well, that'll do it for us. Thank you all for sharing my birthday week with me, Ed, and you guys have a profitable week ahead.
Thanks, Mark. I appreciate that. And not only all with the better cattle, but he also throws in that better farming technique that I really love to have. So we're going to continue this on. Stay with us. We're going to have the horse tip of the week right now.
Hi, I'm Alexis Losi, a dressage instructor from Crown One Farm, and this is your Better Horses tip of the day. So one of the challenges I see as an instructor are swinging legs, very loose legs, during, let's say, our canter to trot transitions or our trot to canter transitions. And that is most often from lack of stability in the core and pinching too much with our knees or too tight in our hips or gripping too much with our calves. So what I like my students to think about is, let's say we are in a right lead canter and we want to go down to a posting trot. So you have to make sure that first, when you ask for your horse to go from a canter to a trot, you are allowing the horse to go down into a trot and you're not gripping so strong that the horse wants to slam on the brakes. So you have to, I like to say, slow your trot to allow the horse to slow down. And then you post up over the pommel of the saddle without gripping your knees so strong that you pop up over the saddle or you get left behind. And so then you're stabilizing your core when you do that. What I also see a lot is going from trot to canter, the legs are swinging so violently that there's no stabilization in the rider. So if we are in a posting trot, I want you to have the horse nice and in front of your leg, going forward freely on his own. And then you're going to sit a stride or two, and then you're going to swing up into the canter. So you have to make sure that your core is stabilized. You're not pinching your knees when you ask for your canter transition. Feel like your legs are on either side of the horse and they're hanging down like wet towels. And you're going to sit on your tailbone. You're going to slide your left leg back very slightly and swing your hips to allow the horse to go up into a canter. Make sure that you're not gripping your knees. Make sure your hips are nice and opening and there's no tightness in your hips. You really open up your hips and really swing your hips forward. And just let your legs hang down softly down both sides of the horse. You're not gripping your calves, you're not gripping your knees, and that should help prevent your legs from wildly swinging in the canter. If you do feel that they are swinging still in the canter, check in with your knees, soften your knees. Check in with your hips. Are they opening and closing? Are you letting your hips swing forward every stride in the canter? Or are you putting enough weight in your stirrups so we have equal weight in our tush and equal weight in our feet in the canter so that you're not gripping so much with your knees? That was your Better Horses tip of the day. I'm Alexis Losi from Crown One Farm. Make it a great ride.
As always, these horse tip of the weeks are very important to keeping us very safe and actually keeping us better with our horses. All right, so stay with us. We got more Better Horses coming your way. I'm Ed Adams.
I'm Merle Arbo.
And I'm Susie Arbo.
And we'll be right back right after these messages.
Get quality you can stand on. Hoof Grip is the proprietary formula that provides shock absorption for your animals with no ice buildup, slipping, cracking, or sogginess, making it the safest, most comfortable, and maintenance-free flooring on the market. Hoof Grip installs quickly and easily over existing surfaces, is easy to clean, and withstands extreme heat or cold. From vet offices to barns, wash racks to trailers and more. Visit hoofgrip.com to find a dealer in your area today.
We're here for the hardworking, the resilient. We're for the people who measure their days by what needs to get done, not by hours. Where kids learn responsibility at a young age and generations work side by side. Where work doesn't pause for holidays or bad weather. It just gets harder. Where value and hard work means more than the clothes you wear. We're Kleinschmidt's Western Store, Higginsville, Missouri.
Routine dental examination and treatments are essential for high-quality horse care. To prevent potential problems, a horse's mouth should be examined at least once a year. I'm Dr. Chris Blevins, Equine Field Service Veterinarian at Kansas State University Veterinary Health Center. We can examine the mouth and provide a treatment plan to meet the needs of each client and their horse. Visit us at ksvhc.org, the Veterinary Health Center, to discover, to teach, to heal.
And welcome back to Better Horses Radio. I'm Ed Adams.
And I'm Merle Arbo.
And I'm Susie Arbo.
And we are pleased to be coming to you with more exciting events talking about horses all day long. This segment is brought to you by Kleinschmidt's Western Wear. It's located in Higginsville, Missouri. And if you're looking for Western apparel or any accessories of high quality, a business owned and operated since 1969, check out kleinboot.com. That's Kleinschmidt's at kleinboot.com. Okay, as promised, we are bringing on board a gentleman by the name Matt Jobe. He owns and operates the C-Bar-J Ranch in Windsor, Missouri. Now, to give you some background, Matt Jobe has competed successfully in the cowboy mounted shooting and also extreme cowboy racing. And he's earned several world, national, and regional and state titles. And just to name a few, in 2015, he won the EXCA Central Champion and the Kansas State Champion. In 2016, he was the world champion and the Missouri State Champion. 2017, Merle, he had the National Finals Reserve Champion, and then he wrapped it up in 2018 being the CMSA National Champion along with the Professional Armed Forces Rodeo World Finals Top 5. So this guy knows what he's doing. He's been out on the ranch for a long time. We're bringing him on board to talk about the Flint Hills Ranch and Adventures. And Merle, this guy competes, and he put together a cowboy competition, and this is a 3-day event in the Flint Hills, and where professional and average riders can compete for the Flint Hills Top Ranch Hand. I'm glad to have him on board, professional horse trainer Matt Jobe. Matt, welcome to Better Horses Radio.
Howdy, folks. Thanks for having me.
Now I get to start this kickoff. Now, you have just done something that is just everybody's dream, to go out in the middle of nowhere on 1,000 acres of virgin tall grass and literally compete as a Flint Hills Top Hand. Can you walk us through this event and exactly how you put all this together?
You bet. So we had an awesome few days out in the Flint Hills near Strong City, Kansas. We raised a bunch of money from sponsors and a bunch of prizes. And then we invited some cowboys and cowgirls that do this work often, but not necessarily every day or anything. Some are trainers, some are not trainers, and but all pretty decent hands. And so whenever they come to the Flint Hills, like you said, we're out in the middle of nowhere. So we teach them how to highline their horses. And so we set up a camp, highline our horses, and have a lunch and meet and greet. And then we get into the activities and start telling them what we're getting ready to do. And what we do is we're going to crown them a top hand, and they're going to be wearing a buckle with our brand on it and our name on it. So we want to pick the best of them. This year we had 10 competitors, and they were amazing. They did such a great job. While they were there, we did things like day one, we sent them through an obstacle course, and not just your average obstacle course. I mean, you had to jump feed bunks, you had to shoot guns, you had to ground tie and go get inside a teepee. You know, you had to, and then hope your horse was still standing there when you got back, of course. And you had to run through creeks. You had to rope live cattle and do a drag. I mean, you name it. We really put them through their paces on the obstacle course.
You know, I got to ask you, Matt, on a couple of these things when you've gone through, you've actually had riders come up to you and that has never shot a gun. And there are certain obstacles that they've never done before that they've done for the very first time. And walk us through how those horses reacted and what was your reaction on how professional these guys were really good at.
Yeah, so absolutely. So if I'm involved in something, you can probably bet there's going to be shooting. And so, of course, we had shooting. Some of the folks, we have always go into safety, show them how to use the gun, let them touch the gun. We want them to be safe. That's first and foremost. And then things like those that have never shot, we gave them some tips on what to do with their horse while they're riding them, where to have the gun at, where to do the shooting at. Like a big thing is shooting behind the saddle so their horse just keeps moving forward. And these cowboys and cowgirls, they were riding pretty trained horses. And with anything you do, the more trained your horse is, the easier it is to accomplish the job. And even the ones that had never shot, they got along just fine and they got the job done.
Well, and Matt, I'm always curious. Did you have any big wrecks out there, or was everything pretty much, or did the horses get broke as you went through it? How did that work for, somebody that was maybe new to it?
Yeah, we did not have any big wrecks. There was a couple times, not with just the shooting, but with sorting and different things. We had some moments that were, got a little bit dicey. But no, we did not have any wrecks. The shooting, everything went great on the shooting. A horse might have started a little bit or jumped a little bit, but then they were done with the shooting and moving on to the next thing. So nope, they got along great. And I contribute that to their good horsemanship, and they were riding good horses.
Matt, when you went into the team roping side of it, and all of these professional horse riders were not working together before, but they had to actually work as a team for the very first time. So how did they get along as a team when they were competing out there?
Yeah, so a few things on the team side of it. One time we had to go gather a pasture, and in that pasture there was actually a fence that had come down. So some of the cattle were on the wrong side of the fence. And this is a pasture. It was a small pasture, several hundred acres, but still a small pasture. And these folks had never worked together. So they're trying to gather cattle, figure out this new ground that they're in. And on the other side of this rock bluff down in the creek is where we had some stray cattle. So they had to work together, get the fence down, get the cattle out. And then after we got them all up, we found a couple sick ones. And so this was the first time they'd ever roped together, ever done any of this together. And we had to rope a couple sick ones and doctor them. And then later on in the next day, we actually roped a whole lot of cattle, and they had to do it as a team. And, you could tell some of them, they wasn't sure what their partner was going to do and whatnot. But by the end, they had really bonded. They had really tried to help each other out, and they did a really good job being a good team member.
If you're just joining us, we're talking to Matt Jobe from the Flint Hills Ranch and Adventures, and he has just completed the cowboy competition in which 10 really well-rode professional horse guys have come out and competed for the top ranch hand. Susie, I want to tell you that there was one person there that was not a cowboy, but a cowgirl. And Susie, so I'm going to, say this girl held her own. So as far as gender goes, there is no advantage of being a guy out there because Matt, back me up. Nakona was out there and she just held her own with all the guys.
Absolutely. She may be a girl, but she was a true cowboy. She got the job done, and she did it great. And she was a contender. All of our top 10 were very good. Any of them could have won this thing. In the end, Nakona finished 4th place. And so she finished really high. And that doesn't mean she did a poor job at all. These guys were just gritty, and they were there to win. And ended up a 63-year young gentleman is the one that schooled them all, and he got to leave with our top hand title. And with that, he left with a buckle, he left with a BE saddle pad, he left with over $1,000 in cash and a bunch of other prizes. He left there with like $2,600 total.
That's amazing. And I'm so glad there was a cowgirl there, that song Long Live Cowgirls. That's awesome. So
yeah,
Matt, one thing that I was curious about, is the mindset that you need, because it's tough, right? And it can be maybe scary or intimidating. Like what kind of attitude or mindset do you have coming into this? And what do you recommend for people if they want to do it in the future, if it kind of scares them?
Yeah, that's a great question because some things you do have to be a little bit brave. Some things you need to be pretty gritty. Some things you need to be conservative and be safe about. And then you definitely need to be a team player. This is stuff like my partner Rex Bookman and myself. This is stuff that happens every day on the ranch, and so you never know what's going to happen. You go out and do it, and that's what's cool about this concept is we brought these folks in, and they're just doing a normal daily life, but they're competing. And but with that, like I said, your mindset kind of has to be everything at once. You know, you got to be a team player, you got to be gritty, got to be conservative, but you got to go for it. And yeah, there's a lot. It's not a simple be this or think this.
I will say that actually the 3 days of 8 hours a day challenging your horse is hard, but I have to give you credit. You and Rex Buckman over there had even a harder job trying to judge this event. What was that like?
Oh, that was the worst part of the weekend. You know, we had great folks to hang out with. Miss Teresa made some wonderful meals. You know, all in all, the weekend was amazing. Judging was by far the worst part of it all. And because these folks were very good and they were very close. And like I said, no, if you play 6, 7, 8, 9, that did not mean you did a bad job whatsoever. The competition was just that good. The top 10 folks were amazing, but we definitely picked the right guy. The guy definitely hands down won, but it sure was hard placing everybody.
And we're talking to Matt Job at the C-Bar J Ranch in Windsor, Missouri, and he is also owner of the Flint Hills Ranch and Adventures, and just wrapping up the cowboy competition, 3-day, 8-hour-a-day event that eliminated a lot of people and had one guy that become the Flint Hills top ranch hand. I got to tell you, this is something that just comes out of Yellowstone, Merle. I mean, this is literally, you're doing everything out there. Matt, I want to tell you, congratulations on another successful 4-year run. This is an invitational, but if they do want to get a hold and get in touch with the Flint Hills Ranch and Adventures, what's the best way to get some information on it?
Yes, we're already planning for next year. And so on Facebook, FlintHillsRanchandAdventures.com. We also have a web page.
Hey, Matt, I just want to give you just a little bit of a compliment here. You are like a master fence builder, and you go all over the place
Yes,
and you
ma'am.
build these beautiful arenas and pens and whatnot. I know we've had you out to the ranch, and it's almost addicting. If you start and you're like, oh my gosh, where do I stop? So if people want to reach out to you for that too, the same number, right?
Yes, ma'am, the same number. And it's funny you say it's addicting. We're doing a job right now, and the gentleman has already added 200 feet to it because he's like, that looks so good. Just keep going. Keep going.
Yes,
I know the feeling.
yes.
So
Yeah, we do.
multi-talented professional horse trainer, Matt Job, and also fence builder and welder, and get a hold of him. 660-537-9542. We're also going to have that on our social media. Facebook page. So check us out there. Matt, thanks again for joining us. And more importantly, thanks for everything you're doing in the horse industry. We appreciate you coming out. And he's at the C-Bar J Ranch in Windsor, Missouri. We're going to have more better horses coming your way. I'm Ed Adams.
I'm Merle Arbo.
And I'm Susie Arbo.
And we'll be right back right after these messages. And welcome back to Better Horses Radio. Really glad you joined us. And Merle, I got to tell you, Susie, Merle, we've got a lot of equine information coming their way and really a very big special event. And with us coming forward, we have an equine career coach. Her name is Dr. Elizabeth James. She's a wife, she's a mother, she's a horse farm owner, she's an equine competitor, but she's also a business manager at the Double Dan Horsemanship, and she's co-founder of the International Liberty Horse Association, and also a CEO. And Susie, you're going to like this, the Equine Career Coach. And there's no doubt about it. She just loves horse business industry. So just to give you a little background, she has her PhD at the University of Kentucky, and she's also got her master's at the University of California, where she studied animal biology. But I am very pleased to have her on board because we're going to talk about the 2024 Liberty Festival that's going on October 10th through the 13th in Lexington, Kentucky. So without any further ado, from Better Horses, welcome Elizabeth James. Dr. Elizabeth James, welcome to Better Horses.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. That was an amazing introduction, but honestly, always such a blessing to get to work with you guys and really appreciate getting to be here to talk with you guys today.
You know, this is exciting to have you on board because I have gone to the Liberty Festival many times, but I think we have to dial back a little bit. Can you kind of walk through for our listening audience, what are we saying when we say Liberty training?
Absolutely. I think that's one of the most important things. I think anymore you see liberty so much, you hear the word, but there is kind of some confusion with it. I think liberty at the very heart is any kind of interaction, performance, or just interacting with horses without tack and equipment. So that can be everything from on the ground without horses having a lead or a halter, to under saddle without a bridle, to bareback and bridleless, to teams of horses working at Liberty, and also to people riding and working horses off of Liberty horses or trick horses. So there's so many components of it, but really it boils down to interacting with horses in a relational way without tack and equipment.
I absolutely love that, and I've got to see your episodes on the show on the Better Horses TV, and I mean it's just magical what people do with these animals, and just the creativity that goes into it. I was curious, how did you get into it, and how did this kind of become your passion?
Yeah, that's such a great question. I think I was like all horse people. I mean, I grew up in Montana. Obviously, horses were more a part of business. There was rodeo, but there wasn't the performance horse access like back where I grew up, let alone anything with Liberty. I obviously met my husband, Dan James, actually through students when I was at University of Kentucky that followed him and his horsemanship. And so the first time I saw a horse work at Liberty was him working it at an event. And like everyone, I was in awe of it. But also, like every crazy horse person, it wasn't enough to watch him do it. It wasn't enough even to work his horses the more I got to know him. But I wanted to know how to do that with my horses. I think that's what makes us all crazy. And so in working with him, he taught me Liberty. I'll give him full credit. But then as it started to grow, I mean, we were kind of just a couple that would watch Liberty on social media and YouTube acts and just watch so many people. And like you said, there's so much creativity. There's so many different ways to do it. And that was really the idea behind the International Liberty Horse Association, is that this is really a discipline, just like any other equine discipline, and creating a platform for people like us that love it, that love to compete and show, and giving them somewhere to be able to go do that.
And Elizabeth, I know some of our listeners out there are maybe unfamiliar with it. And I remember the first time, when Ed was talking about it, and I'm like, oh, I had to YouTube it. And can you maybe describe like the process of what they go through and how they're judged and what's required of the performance?
Absolutely. So the idea behind the ILHA is really that they say horse people are so crazy that we judge people, we pay people to judge us at our hobby. So that's probably true across all disciplines. And Liberty is no different. So what we did was created patterns. Liberty is like every other discipline. So it starts out in a round pen. It starts out with a halter and lead. And so we wanted to have classes that were at that level all the way through the freestyle and the performances with music and costume. And so in the beginning, we really sat down and created patterns, which hadn't ever been something associated with Liberty. But that really legitimized it as a discipline. And we created those so people can come in. I think we got a little out of hand. I think we have like 98 patterns. So maybe got a little excited and carried away.
Wow.
But there truly is something for everyone. And so we created patterns and a judging rubric. That's an ode to my educational background, and a judging process and judging school, so that we could put on shows so that people could come, they could show, compete, win prizes, win ribbons, win money, win buckles. All the same things with any other discipline, but all revolving around Liberty.
And if you're just joining us, we're talking to Dr. Elizabeth James, and she is an equine career coach, and more importantly, the 2024 Liberty Festival, which is going on October 10th through the 13th in Lexington, Kentucky. And this consists of 4 days of education, entertainment, as she was just saying, also competition, collaboration, shopping, a lot of fun. And it's at the Alltech Arena. But Dr. James, this is all levels. So if you're judging from the highest level to even beginners to actually participate in this type of festival, correct?
Yeah, and I think that's one of the most unique things about this event is that there are truly, I mean, we have 5 different divisions. So youth, non-pro, pro, senior, and then we have Para Liberty this year for the first time. And so it isn't just an event for the highest levels, the top performers or trainers. Like, we really want to give an opportunity for people at all different levels and all different styles of Liberty to get the opportunity to perform and show off with their horse. And so I think that's one of the most unique things. I think there's a lot of expos that you can go to, and we travel to those where people get to see the best of the best, and that's important. We have incredible clinicians coming this year to teach and to do training demos, but we also spend time every day, all day Thursday, highlighting and giving the opportunity to people of all ages, all backgrounds, and all styles of Liberty to perform and compete with their horses or mules.
That sounds absolutely amazing. I just heard Ed say shopping, and that really caught my ear. I love going to events like that and whatnot to just for the shopping alone sometimes. But what I'm curious about is if people are listening to the show right now and they think, well, wow, this is really cool. However, I'm not going to be able to get out there to this event. How could they either get started with their own horse or learn more about this?
That's such a great question. And I really think the ILHA is a great association for people to connect with other Liberty, either enthusiasts or trainers. When we started the association, we want to promote all Liberty trainers. We have so many members that do clinics, they do online coaching programs, they have online courses for people to learn Liberty. And so I really encourage people, first things first is to really start to look on social media. All you have to do is type in Liberty, and you'll see all sorts of people, horses, styles, performances, and pick and choose what is most attractive to you, what kind of catches your eye. A lot of people share their philosophy, and then reach out to them or to put posts on social media or in the group or in the ILHA and ask people, because people are so willing to connect and to share their experience. And then I always tell people, start by just auditing a clinic. Start by just, taking a lesson, or start by going to an event. The idea behind the Liberty Festival is you can go to one event in 4 days and meet over 20 different Liberty trainers and over 100 different Liberty competitors. And so you can connect and find who you align with and who you want to learn from all in one weekend for, $120. And so that was really the idea, was create an event where everyone can come together and then find people that they want to learn from or how they want to learn, so that they can go somewhere instead of just picking a clinic and investing hundreds of dollars and not even sure if it'll work.
And you kind of alluded to it earlier, but you said there was going to be some trainers. Could you tell us about some of the headliners, and then if you got any other special guests or anybody coming?
Absolutely. So we're super excited for the headlining trainers this year. We're having Ben Atkinson back over from the UK. Ben came last year. Anyone who loves Liberty knows Ben, even if just from social media, but we really got to know him last year. He's just a fantastic trainer, fantastic horseman. So we're excited to have him back over. We have Steve Rother. We really wanted to make sure we have trainers from all over the U.S., and Steve is really based out in Washington, the state, does a lot of training in Alaska and Oregon. So he'll be coming out. And then, of course, we have Amber Marshall from Heartland. I think she has inspired more people to be interested in Liberty than anyone else. And so we're so excited to have her come. It's her first U.S. event appearance. We've gotten to work with her on some projects, and I'm so excited because I know her. I know how amazing she is. She's incredible. She's warm. She's knowledgeable. She's encouraging. And I just can't wait for people to get to know her as a horsewoman and not just an actress. And then another one that is actually coming, because he was just really interested in the event, and we're so excited, is someone named Honza Balaha, and he's actually from the Czech Republic, and reached out to us, and a lot of the people that are huge Liberty fans will know his name and have been following him for years.
Wow, that sounds great.
Wrapping it up with Elizabeth James. She is also the co-owner of the 2024 Liberty Festival. Now, this is all coming March 10th through the 13th in Lexington, Kentucky. And I will confess to you, Elizabeth, that my daughter actually got into horses after watching Amber Marshall and Heartland. God knows how many seasons they're into now, over 20. It is a great show. It is great that she's coming. I think she's going to be a big ticket when she gets there. And you've got to put that on your calendar, October 10th through the 13th in Lexington, Kentucky. I am very honored and pleased to have the COO of Double Dan Horsemanship and also the CEO and co-founder of the International Liberty Horse Association, Elizabeth James.
Thank you, guys. It's such an honor to be here with you. Thank you for having me. Ed and Kelly, if you're out there, I'm so excited to have you guys and see you in just a couple short weeks. Thank you so much for having me as a guest. It's been an honor.
You bet. Okay, we got coming up more Better Horses Radio coming your way with Dr. Traha, who's going to talk to us about the equine field services and everything you need to know about the care and custody of horses. Thank you, Elizabeth James, for joining us. I'm Ed Adams.
And I'm Merle Arbo.
And I'm Susie Arbo.
And we're going to have more Better Horses Radio coming your way right after these messages.
Hi, I'm Dr. Dylan Luter, a specialist in equine performance medicine at the Kansas State University Veterinary Health Center. Our new service focuses on lameness diagnosis, advanced imaging, physical therapy, and regenerative medicine for horses with injuries preventing them from performing at their best. We can treat a variety of conditions and design a customized rehabilitation plan to meet the needs of each client and their horse. Visit us at ksvhc.org, the Veterinary Health Center, to discover, to teach, to heal.
Hi, I'm Tommy with Heritage Tractor. Whether you're looking to maintain your yard or your whole ranching operation, Heritage Tractor has John Deere mower and tractor packages that make work fly by. With a variety of horsepower and attachment configurations, we have a package to best fit your needs and budget. To learn more about these exclusive packages, visit us in store or online at heritagetractor.com.
Legendary products, extraordinary service, that's our heritage.
Established in 1956, the Pinto Horse Association of America was formed to welcome all types of equines and maintain their show records and pedigrees. PTHA currently has over 88,000 members with 157,000 registered Pintos. There are currently 3 separate registries: the Color Registry, the Solid Registry, and the Long Ear Registry. We welcome all levels of competition within a family-friendly environment. Become a member, register, and add value to your horse. For more information, check out the website pintoworld.com.
Get quality you can stand on. Hoof Grip is the proprietary formula that provides shock absorption for your animals with no ice buildup, slipping, cracking, or sogginess, making it the safest, most comfortable, and maintenance-free flooring on the market. Hoof Grip installs quickly and easily over existing surfaces, is easy to clean, and withstands extreme heat or cold. From vet offices to barns, wash racks to trailers and more. Visit hoofgrip.com to find a dealer in your area today.
We're here for the hardworking, the resilient. We're for the people who measure their days by what needs to get done, not by hours. Where kids learn responsibility at a young age and generations work side by side. Where work doesn't pause for holidays or bad weather. It just gets harder. Where value and hard work means more than the clothes you wear. We're Kleinschmidt's Western Store, Higginsville, Missouri.
It's time to go with United Mosquito and Fly Control's premier fly system for fly control in your barn, providing relief for horses from the stress of fighting flies, and also makes the barn more pleasant for everyone in the barn. Easy, effective, and safe. With United Mosquito and Fly Control, we provide a full service. You as the barn owner don't have to do anything. We go everywhere and take care of everything with our friendly fast service. Call today at 913-558-3814 or email Paul at unitedmosquito.com.
And welcome back to Better Horses. Now, Susie, this has got to be one of our best shows. I mean, we are covering it all from exciting over to the Flint Hills and then the Liberty show that's coming up. I mean, there's a lot going on this fall.
There's so many things. And, at the end of the day, what's so important too is our horses' health and taking good care of them. And that's why I'm so excited for our next guest.
And this segment is brought to you by the Kansas State University College of Veterinary Medicine. Excited to have the guy that we actually work with on a day-by-day basis, Dr. Traha, joined the equine field service and clinical instructor prior to returning to Will Heighton Freeze. He's got a professional interest, including lameness evaluation, and he also does surgery, and he's also into the new technology on conventional treatment and all the things that we have to know about horses and even chronic wounds and stuff like that. So more importantly, I'd like to welcome Dr. Traha, also known as Dr. T. So if I say that throughout this interview, that's why I talk to him. Dr. Traha, welcome to Better Horses Radio.
My pleasure to be here.
You know, we're talking about the care and custody, as Susie was talking about, what we need to be aware of going into this fall with all the horses and the championship and all the shows that we're going into. Vaccination is very important, but talk to us on what do we need to be looking out for going into the fall and winter season?
Yeah, so it's interestingly enough, our kind of drought timeline and what we've been dealing with is made us a little bit more similar to the Gulf Coast in reality, in that we've had unseasonably more mosquitoes, ticks, things like that than the Midwest is typically exposed to. And so generally speaking, the wintertime, the crisp spring, the late fall, we don't tend to deal with that most often. But in reality, I think our vaccinations need to be aware of these things. Our recognition of diseases need to be aware of that. And maybe our vaccination patterns should be similar to how the Gulf Coast is treated currently.
And Dr. Traha, I've noticed, and you said, ticks and mosquito bites and everything are up. And it seems like the allergies of the horses, I've never used to have horses with allergies. Is that also, do you see that nationwide or at least in your practice?
Certainly with us, the amount of Hy-Vee horses, the amount of swollen legs, the amount of swollen sheaths, itchiness just in general, wounds, all those things seem to be exponentially more than years past. So is it related to what's going on in our environment? We've had kind of some strange years, even the past couple years. So yeah, I think allergies, environmental irritants, allergens, all those things are on the rise. They're a little bit different. We're challenged to deal with them.
That's good to know. I'm curious to know, just because we've used you guys in the past, you've done a wonderful job with our horses. We've had some colics and we've been able to kind of haul in very quickly, and you guys have got to us and helped us a lot. Just curious too, with the weather changing, how it kind of goes from warm one day to cool the next day. Is that true that impacts colics?
Yeah, so there's some factual basis to that. It is absolutely true if you take like an epidemiologic perspective. So if you just survey horses and colic, we know for certain there's something about weather swings, not that it gets cold to hot or hot to cold or whatever it is, but we know when there's a major weather change, probably, in the order of 10, 15 degrees, that has some important impact. And when we look on it a global perspective, that is a risk factor for colicky behavior. Is that a cause of it? We don't know. Is it the barometric pressure? What about that change is what brings it about? We don't know that.
Erratic changes are important. And more importantly, just talking about the infectious diseases going into all the shows, is there anything we need to be aware of as far as keeping our horses healthy with all of the horses coming into these championship shows?
Sure. I think it's super critical. Obviously, as we're coming into the spring wellness, we talk about those infectious diseases that we do care for, that we do vaccinate to reduce the symptoms of or potentially prevent in some instances. Because of the changes in what's going on, the reality is we need to be aware that I was just looking up, there's a nice resource for horse owners called the Equine Disease Communication Center. It's a website. It is completely voluntary, so our states are not reporting this info. So you can at least peruse and see what's going on in your state or in your locale, where you're heading to, sort of thing. And I was just looking at two of the more common things we're seeing, what we call the encephalitides. So EEE and WEE, the encephalitis virus. There's a bit of a sporadic outbreak. There's been kind of 86 cases this year. They're reporting confirmed cases. And then as well as West Nile seems to be a pretty commonly reported problem this year, mostly coast-based, East Coast, West Coast. So those things we have really good vaccines for, and we should be using them well. Here in the Midwest, in Missouri, generally speaking, because summertime tends to be the vector season, once a year vaccine has historically been appropriate, trying to keep higher protection in the summer. But as the weather has changed, or as you're going to an alternate place, we may consider boostering those for winter care. Now, West Nile tends to be, interestingly enough, more of a fall problem, and we're starting to see that rise of it now. So there, unfortunately, the combo vaccine includes most of these, but sometimes we can give just an individual West Nile booster. So vaccine's important, and speaking to your vet about what your protocol is and maybe new information or changes in the travel pattern or outbreaks might be important to have a conversation.
That's really good information. I appreciate that. But just curious about supplements. I know, we do smart packs and whatnot. And do you guys recommend that? And like, even I was just even asking about colic earlier. I know that there's some, that say that they help with horses that might be at higher risk with colic. Do you recommend supplements?
Yeah, it's a bit of a can of worms that gets opened up, and I'm fine having the conversation. The reality is, my job is to kind of weed through these things and give a professional opinion. The reality is, almost all supplements, well, by nature, no supplements are regulated. They have voluntary, basically quality control options. Some companies, such as SmartPak, Platinum Performance, Cosequin, those folks do third-party testing to ensure that they're packaging what they say, it's staying safe, it's staying good on a shelf. In reality, it's completely buyer beware. There are probably some supplements that help with certain things, as far as the wear and tear, the maintenance of joints, the intestinal health, probiotic front. The jury's still out on a lot of these things. Almost all of it is anecdotal, meaning that there's not a lot of hard science, especially with big studies. And we're trying to get those companies like Platinum Performance, like SmartPak, they're doing really good trials to try to prove things. These are challenging. So I do think that there are some benefit to some supplements. And additionally, it kind of gave me a thought. Insurance in horse for mortality is pretty expensive. The reality is there are some supplement companies that have even more than just a money back guarantee. Companies such as SmartPak, if you follow their rules, now they get to set the rules, but they may pay out for certain colicky situations. So it is another form of insurance, if you will. And what benefit you get from the SmartPak, great. So it's valuable information. Maybe you don't go the traditional insurance route, but maybe you look into a supplement option that not only maybe provides some benefit to your horse, but gives you some buyer protection.
That's really good information.
And if you're just joining us, we're talking to Dr. Traha from Wilhite and Fries, located in Missouri. If you want to get a hold of him, you can call the Veterinarian Equine Hospital at 816-779-0100. Dr. T, want to thank you for joining us. As always, we appreciate you coming on board, keeping us calibrated. Obviously, the smartest guy in the room. And we want you to come back if you have time.
We're always happy to have a conversation. We're always happy to help. Give us a call.
And thank you, Dr. T, for joining us here on Better Horses. And for those of you who want to get a hold of Wilhite and Fries, you're always welcome to call their number at 816-779-0100. And that's Wilhite and Fries Equine Hospital with Dr. Traha. Merle, Susie, a great show. Thank you for joining us. It is always a fast week when we get through, and we're always talking about horses. And I got to tell you, I think we covered everything.
Oh, wow, that was great. I mean, I had 6 more questions for Dr. T, man. I was like, hey.
There's so much information coming in to all our radio listeners out there. If you missed this show or you want to hear this show again, be sure to check us out on our podcast. Wherever you get your podcast, just search for Better Horses.
Don't forget to look for our fall edition of the newspaper coming out with the full Color Breed Congress schedule. You're not going to want to miss that.
Yes, and always remember that you can follow us on Facebook and check out all of the different events coming up. And also, we love to hear from you guys what you want to hear from us. as far as what you want to know more about the horses. And then also follow us on our YouTube channel from Encore Performances. It's called Better Horses. We also have a TV show that airs on RFD TV and the Cowboy Channel. We are all about getting better with our horses.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, Susie, and also Merle, the Color Breed Congress coming up, taking place November 1st to the 9th in Tulsa, Oklahoma. We are all three going to be there, and we're getting our horses legged up and getting ready for all the championship shows. And that's it. As we wrap it up, special thanks to the people behind the scenes, our radio producer, Brianna Johnson, and our TV producer, Kelly Creech, and naturally, all our sponsors. Well, everyone, I want you to all be good buckaroos and buckarettes. Mind your mom and dads and be brave, but don't take any chances out there. Until next time, I'm Ed Adams.
I'm Merle Arbo.
And I'm Susie Arbo.
Happy trails, and always ride for the brand.